Good evening, everybody. I'm calling today's Complete Street Commission's meeting Wednesday, April 24th, to order. And Art, you can establish form the record.
All right, Commissioner Banerjee,
Present.
Chair Bankman,
Present.
Commissioner Pieka, not here. Vice Chair Katz. Commissioner Schindler. Present. Commissioner Helmholtz.
Here.
Commissioner Yang is not here, but we do have one.
Thank you, Art. Have everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before we get on to the agenda items, I'd like to invite public comments for items not on the agenda. Do we have anybody? I have one. Anybody else? Do you have a sheet you can name on it?
No, I don't have a sheet.
Okay. I have two. What do I call Jim Wing first, and then I'll get to you. Jim?
Let's see, for the record, I'm Jim Wing on Milverton Road. I'm really here tonight to ask you to have a future agenda item to ask council, not council, but staff, to create a CIP, capital improvement project for University El Monte intersection. This is an intersection where we have two serious problems that have been with us for quite a few years. One is the students crossing in the crosswalk in the morning. The people turning left into their lane is the sun blocks the vision and you can't see them. And number two is the fact that the through lane, left turn lane in one direction and the left turn lane in the other direction are in line with each other. And therefore, you don't know what the guy across you is going to do until you both get in the intersection. Police reported accidents 2 to 3 per year. In that case, just recently this year, I've seen the remains of 2 accidents from this type of situation. Now, fortunately, there is a simple design solution to this. And it following the lead of the county airport and roads, as you will know probably in the last 6 months, they put split phase signal control at both Edith and Main on Foothill Expressway. Same situation. Morning you can't see, and then 2 lanes in front of each other. So now, in terms of reviewing the hardware at the existing interchange there, it appears that the controller is capable of taking an additional line. And what you need is 1 additional, like left turn, 3 light stands. And also it appears that the wiring is already there, and the wiring needs to go to 2 poles. And both of these, the changes you have to make are both poles have to be replaced with a pole that has a little bit taller, and it has for its key an extension, so they'll line up over. And then also adding the 1 3 light bank to each of the new pole extension. Now, this is a CSMP item. It's also by making the split phase, you will be finally in compliance with the California Vehicle Code. So therefore, to relieve that reliability from anything, this really should be done. The county has been interested in doing this. Keep in mind that Los Altos owns the hardware, they control the signals, and I've worked with the technician who comes out to change the signals, which they do change about every month or so, depending on traffic flow. So I urge you to get a future agenda item and simply ask staff to create a CIP. Thank you.
Thank you. State your name. Thank you.
My name is Guru Ramanathan, resident of South Los Altos, Fremont and Grand. The item I wanted to highlight is about the wonderful improvement thanks to the Complete Streets Commission for the improvements in the street striping around Montclair Elementary and all the bike lane markings. However, it's not been 6 months and we already have the utility companies digging up most of St. Joseph with running trenching lines, etc. And I urge the commission to look into making sure that the streets are returned back with all the striping and the surfacing back to what it was prior to all the trench work and everything else. Thank you.
Thank you. Public comments for items not on the agenda today. Okay. All right, now that close comments on public comments on items not on the agenda, let's get on the agenda item number 1. You have an information item on the VTA Homestead Safe Routes to School project. Art, do you want to introduce our speakers today and take it from there?
Yeah, we have, actually, we have Hassan, with VTA. He's gonna be speaking today. And let me put up his presentation here and then he can,
Hi, good evening. Thank you for inviting us here to make this presentation. My name is Hassan Basma. I'm with GTA. I'm an engineering transportation manager, and I'm also the project manager for this project. And with me, my team,
yeah, just say that was it.
So on my team, we have Lauren Ledbetter, who is a senior transportation planner. And we have our design team, we have Zila Shafi, who is the project manager, and Nabila, who is the project engineer. Next slide, please. So what's the agenda for today is we just want to it's an informational item, as you know, and we'll tell you about the purpose of the presentation, and we'll talk about the project background and overview, tell you how we got here. And we'll also talk about project goals and design considerations, which are the scope of work. We'll then get into project cost and schedule, and then kind of update you on outreach meetings, and then we'll take questions or any comments from you guys. Next. So what's the purpose of the presentation? It is really, like I said, it's to update you guys on the Homestead Safe Route to School project. And project background, how did we get here? Little story. In November of 2016, the voters of Santa Clara County approved Measure B, which was a 30-year half-cent sales tax. That measure was to support transportation projects and services. So included in those, in that list of programs were local streets, roads, bicycle, and pedestrian programs. In 2018, the County Board of Supervisors, Joe Simedian, championed this project, and in 2019, the county completed a study report. Then in 2023, the Measure B funds were secured and the project went out to bid, and we then awarded the project to Dean's Corp. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, the county was the one who did the study report, and during that time, they did 2 community meetings, which were held with extensive public outreach. And the first one was in November of 2018, and the second one was in February of 2019. And we did collaborate with stakeholders such as cities of Sunnyvale, Los Altos, Cupertino, Caltrans, VTA, County of Santa Clara, the school districts, and parents, students, and staff were all involved. As I mentioned, the study was done by the county, but then it was then turned over to VTA, which is now a VTA-led project. And you might ask, why VTA? So VTA, we're very experienced in delivering projects through design and construction, and especially for multi-jurisdictional projects. And we also were the ones who applied for and received the Measure B funds. Next slide, please. So this is the project area map. I'm pretty sure all of you are familiar with it. The project starts from Grant Road and goes all the way to Hollenbeck and Sterling Road. And on the corridor goes over Stevens Creek and State Route 85. And close to the corridors, you'll find 3 schools, which is the West Valley Elementary School, the Homestead High School, and the Cupertino Middle School. So what are the project goals? So what we want to get out of this project is really to implement bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure improvements for a safe route to school project. And we want to support safe and efficient modes of transportation that includes biking, walking, driving, and riding public transit. And then mostly we want to connect the students of the 3 schools that I mentioned, which are the West Valley Elementary School, Cupertino, and Middle High School. Design considerations. So what are our scope of work? If you go out there, you will notice there are gaps between sidewalks. So what we want to do, we want to install some new sidewalks to close those gaps. We also want to widen sidewalks and shared use path wherever feasible. And we want to convert bike lanes to buffered or protected where feasible. We then will tighten corner curb radar and shorten cross distance, which are some of the criteria for complete streets. We want to install new ADA curb ramp for improved accessibility and improve some traffic signals on the corridor. We also want to upgrade to high visibility crosswalks and eliminate free right turn lanes. So what we have here is on the corridor, we've decided to take some cross sections on the corridor and do some renderings. So on this first rendering, what you're looking at is on Grant Road. So it's between Chris Drive and Homestead Road. So if you're standing on Chris Drive and looking to southeast towards Homestead Road, you'll see that we're widening the sidewalk on the left, and we're installing bike lanes with buffer. And on the right side, we're installing a protected bike lane. And another rendering, this is on Fallen Leaf Lane. We're looking east. So if you standing on Fallen Leaf Lane, looking towards Belleville, so you'll see that on the left side, we have a widened shared use path. And on both sides of the road, we're installing protected bike lanes. And this one, this is on State Route 85 bridge. So if you're looking east towards Bernardo Avenue, you will see that sidewalk improvements are being done on both sides of the street. And we're installing a protected 2-way cycle track on the left, and we're installing a protected bike lane on the right. We're doing the 2-way cycle track because if you notice, if you go out there, you'll see a lot of kids go on the opposite of, so this is kind of to legalize that movement. Next slide, please. So on this one, we are on Bernardo Avenue. So if you're standing on Homestead looking north towards Bernardo Avenue, Cupertino Middle School will be on the right side. We're installing it's called an RRFB, which is really a pedestrian beacon, pedestrian flashing beacon. And on the right and left side, we'll be widening the sidewalk. And on the right side, we'll be installing a bike lane with buffer. So the funding, as I mentioned earlier on, VTA received $1.167 million for from the Measure B for this project, and Santa Clara County matched that with $350,000 for a total of $1.5 million. So what this does is this only covers the 35%, up to 35% design, and also to environmentally clear the project. It does not cover going to final design or going to construction. So construction cost estimate. Because we've received the 35% design, we came up with an estimate of $12 million for construction. And with that, we do always have to include a construction management. Usually, typically, it's about 20%. So that is why we have a $2.4 million. And we also threw in a contingency amount of 20%, which is $2.4 million for a total of $16.8 million. I must say, again, this is a preliminary construction cost estimate. The estimates do change as design progresses. So this will not be, I'll guarantee you, this will not be the final cost of this project. And again, just a note, this estimate does not include right-of-way. So if there's any right-of-way take, it's not included in this one. We're hoping there's none. Next slide, please. So schedule, I mentioned before, we did receive the study report from the county, and it was finalized in 2019. And we did receive 35% draft plans, which was in February of this year. And so we distributed that to the different stakeholders, the cities, the county, and we're expecting, we did receive comments from them. So what we're planning on doing next now is incorporating those comments and delivering the final 35%, which is expected to be in June of this year. We are going through public meetings right now. We've done last week, I did the Sunnyvale BPAC and Cupertino BPAC, and a couple of weeks before that, we went out to the public. So we're doing public meetings between this month and in June. And environmental clearance is expected to start next month and hopefully be cleared by February of 2025. If you notice, the next three items all have asterisks on them. That's because it's pending future funds. We don't have the money for those items yet. But if we do apply for and get any funding, we're expecting to have our final plans somewhere in October of next year. And bidding will be between January and June of 2026, with the construction estimated to go on between June of 2026 and December of 2027 for that's about a year and a half. Again, upcoming outreach meetings, we are planning to go to the VTA BPAC. But right now we say TBD, but I think we're planning in June of this year. And Sunnyvale City Council is on the 7th of next month, and we're planning to go to Los Altos City Council at the end of this month. And that ends my presentation, and we'll take questions or comments.
Thank you. Bring it back to the commission for commissioners. Any questions, comments? Hopefully questions to the guests today. Go ahead.
I just have one question, which is that on your time chart, there wasn't an item for when you actually will apply for funding and when it's possible to get that funding. When would that typically happen?
That's actually ongoing. We have applied a couple of times, but it was unsuccessful. So it's just an ongoing. Every time we hear of an opportunity, we jump on it.
So given the way that the county funding cycle works, when would be the next opportunity to reapply?
Sure, yeah, I'm the person who helped write the grants. So I can't tell you the exact next one, but we're looking outside of the county as well. We're looking at federal, we're looking at state. There are some current grants that are out right now. There is the active transportation plan at the state that's out right now, but we applied for this project and did not score well, and we do not think that we will be able to bring the score up enough to actually get the money this cycle. So I don't think we're going to be applying this cycle for that. But there's a variety of other opportunities, so ongoing.
Will some of the other presentations cover, that scoring methodology or what the commission might be able to do to help raise the score?
You mean the rest of Hassan's presentation, or I can answer that question a bit. It's the ATP grant, it's really challenging because although there are a lot of undocumented crashes and other incidents on the corridor, they're not documented, and so you get points for a variety of different things. One of them is for safety, right? And if there's a lot of documented crashes that police reported, then that bumps up your score. So we've been able to provide the committee that scores, on the grants, anecdotal evidence, but we don't, I think we could probably gather more of that and include that in grants. And even, telling the story is how you get the money, right? So that's one of the things. The other thing is there is a lot of priority for lower income minority communities. And those are designated by the region and by the state. And so this area doesn't have census tracts that highlight that. But I know there are people who live in the community who basically meet those criteria. So I think having us do some additional outreach and find community members where this would be supportive would be helpful for us as well. So I think those are the two big things.
Okay, so thank you for the presentation, it's very good, and are you Lauren on this page?
I am, yeah.
Okay, so I didn't-
I'm sorry, I should have told you.
Okay, and, so, let's see if I got that right. You said that the more accidents you have, the more higher your score is?
That is true for at least one grant program. And I don't want to say it's the more caches you have, you need to have a project that can show a demonstrated safety issue, and then you need to make sure the project actually addresses that specific safety issue. So it's not just a number game, it's what is the actual problem? How bad is it? And is your project going to address it with a proven safety countermeasure?
Thank you.
I have one question. It sounds like you have a draft of the 35% plans out now to the different agency staff. My question is, when is that 35%? Maybe it comes as the final draft, but when is that coming to the public so commissioners and other residents can give feedback? Lauren, can I assume that's the June BTA BPAC, or what is the plan?
Yeah, we're planning on having the final in June, but usually what we do is we send it back to all the reviewers that made comments to it, just so to show them that their comments were incorporated. How to share that with the public? We don't usually share that with the public because there's a lot of pages that are involved in that, and it's mostly technical drawings. So that's why we don't share that with the public. We trust the the agencies, the cities, to be representing the cities.
I have a comment on that, but I can say
Yeah,
that
go
for a
ahead.
comment,
Yes.
or you want to do it
Yeah,
now?
just look now.
I think, without doing a fine microscopic look at all the details, and as this community knows, looking at the details is a good idea in advance of having something implemented. I think having a little bit more showing of what's happening on this corridor, in some public facing forum will be valuable, because I think many people participated, and you were there, Lauren, at those community meetings, and as was I, and I'm not sure anybody else in the room was there, a couple years ago at Homestead High School. And I think a lot of parents and community members haven't seen it since then. So putting some of that back and getting people's input before we say this is what we're gonna construct, I think would be wise, even not necessarily, 200 pages of details, but.
So, when we went last week to, Sunnyvale BPAC, kind of the same issue came up. It was, for some of them, they said, hey, I know that those renderings are great, the cross section, but I don't see the connectivity, I don't see everything. So what we've decided on, we do have an exhibit that shows the whole corridor itself, and so colors and all that exhibit. So what we're planning on doing is, I was just talking to my designer just this afternoon. We have a web page for this project, so we will upload it there for everybody to see. So it's, if you want to see the whole corridor and how everything is connected, I promise you before Friday, it should be up and running. So I don't know, maybe we'll send, I'll let Lauren know and probably pass that on to you so you can let the rest of the commission know that it's available on the website.
Thank you.
Sure.
I have other comments, but do you want to save those after?
Yeah,
public
let's
comment?
do that.
I just wanted to, just a follow-up question. So I'm not sure what you're calling it, drawing or a kind of a whole corridor.
Yes.
Right. Does that reflect the 35% design?
Yes.
It does. So all the major elements are in there.
Yes, it should be showing you all what we show. It's from that exhibit that we took those cross sections.
And that, once you have that, it would be good if if that can be publicized, we can bring it back to the commission next week as an information item, just to let the public know that it's up there. Okay, thank you. Do you have any questions? Okay. Any other questions? Okay, all right, let's get back to the comments. Go ahead, Stacy, if you have any comments.
Do you want to do our comments or do you want public?
No, let's do the public comments first. Okay, good. So let me have anybody from the public have any comments on this agenda item. I don't have a sheet specific to that from anybody, but if anybody wants to make a public comment, I'll give you each 3 minutes each.
Where do we have our sheets for the public who wants to fill in? After you speak, I think you can.
You would, yeah, that way we have it for.
I can actually fill that out. Right, my name is Guru Ramanathan. I'm a resident of South Los Altos, very much in the Homestead corridor. This is a much needed improvement that we have been looking forward to for almost a decade now. So this is definitely something that we would like to see funded and move forward. This addresses a very important part of the Safe Routes to School, which I'm the Safe Routes to School chairperson for Montclair Elementary, so this is close to my heart as well. There are 3 big intersections that deal with the community to carry kids that leave the Montclair attendance area towards Cupertino Middle School and beyond, and also Homestead High. All of them happen to be along the Grant frontage road because it runs right next to Foothill Expressway. This has been a jurisdictional nightmare with so many agencies involved, so BTA taking this on is definitely welcome, and we want to see this happen. Unfortunately, this is a great improvement that addresses a couple of one of the biggest intersections around Homestead, Foothill, and Grant Road, but it falls short because the main feeder that then comes into this covers 2 other problematic intersections, one at Grant, Foothill, and St. Joseph, and the other one at Arboretum, Grant, and Foothill. Both of those have exiting traffic at significantly higher speeds, and also cars moving also at significantly higher speeds with no clear directed lanes or protection for pedestrians and bikers, especially kids biking to school. So one of the ideas that was discussed over the 85 bridge to do a two-way, if that would connect into an existing 2-way bike lane, and then if that could be extended all the way along Grant frontage road, that would give significant protection for the bikers and the kids going to school. So if this project scope would address the entirety of Grant frontage, it would really serve the purpose and the community really well, all the way up to St. Joseph. And that's my request.
Thank you. Any other comments? Thank you. All, we get back to our comments, any? Um,
I have comments.
you have comments? Okay, go ahead.
So I will also echo what I've heard is thank you already. Thank you to BTA staff for taking on this project. It's an important multi-jurisdictional project, and I think something new that BTA has stepped up and showing leadership to do, and our community appreciates it. And I will tell you, as a parent, nearly a decade ago, before I was on this commission, I personally went and talked to all the jurisdictions, the cities, the county, and more, the school districts. And it was, with all respect to those jurisdictions, it's very difficult for them to solve something that crosses a border and goes out of their jurisdiction. And I'm not gonna say people pointing fingers or anything like that, but without you, we can't get this done. And it's essential for our community. And it's unfortunate that grants are such that we have to score that a lot of people got severely injured riding their bicycle, so you can have some money, versus we've heard the stories, including some of my friends, kids who've been hit. I've witnessed as recent as last month, a student being hit on the way to school. And my third witness this year on this very corridor of collisions, along with other ones that my friends have seen. And it's unfortunate that that the way that the grants get scored, we don't rank. And while I appreciate equity priority communities needing money, and I know you guys don't control all the scoring of the grants, but when we're talking about kids going to school, and this does not just touch West Valley Elementary, it does start going into the Montclair Elementary attendance area as well too. So you're talking about routes for 4 public schools, and there are also a lot of St. Simon kids on there. Every kid deserves funding for their safe route to school. And I feel very, very strongly about that. And I know you don't control the grant scoring. I would also thank county staff who are not here tonight, but they took on the initial effort to get this project to where it was, and they only touched one end of the jurisdiction, and we appreciate the work that Anant Prasad and the whole team did to advance this. And finally, as Hassan pointed out in his presentation, Joe Samidian was the champion of bringing all these people together and securing funding for doing the initial study. And, you know, our community owes great thanks to County Supervisor Joe Samidian for doing this. I will say a couple comments. I look forward to some of the details, and we'll delve in the details, but we'll see what the details are. But I think from the community design study that was done a couple of years ago, that was a big document as well. Good stuff in there. I think the areas of feedback that I have are just a couple. And I don't think they were well discussed at that time. One is right by Homestead High School, how the kids reach the school. So let me start from the opposite direction first, because most of my comments are going to be on our end. But from Hollenbeck and Stelling, kids head towards the high school on bicycle. And once they hit the Kennewick intersection, here's Homestead, here's Kennewick. Those kids are heading to bike parking that's in a service road on the school property right here. The short few feet of distance from Kennewick to that is very dangerous because they are often on the wrong side of the road. And there's a lot of cars coming in and out of the student parking lot, and that student parking lot is up on a hill and it gets used for drop-off some too. So finding a safe path for those students is really important. And I'm sure if you've been at the Sunnyvale DPAC, you've heard an earful about that. I don't personally know what the solution is, but that needs a solution. The second thing is right by the high school as the students approach the high school. And by the way, I started advocating for this project when my son was in 4th grade and he's in 11th grade now. So I'm very familiar with the situation right by Homestead High School. So on a semi-rainy day in, I think, November or December probably, instead of driving my son, or I drove my son to school because it was semi-rainy, but some kids were biking. On the ramp, the bike ramp that goes towards the Mary Avenue Bridge, the kids coming from Los Altos and this side of 85, which includes Cupertino and Sunnyvale residents, when they head to the high school, they don't go near the Kennewick intersection. They come down Homestead, and right at Mary Avenue, they enter a ramp, which is the same ramp that heads toward the Mary Avenue bike bridge. And then they use the Mary Avenue path a little bit and go behind the school. And then they kind of enter between the buildings and the track, and there's bike parking back there. And don't tell anybody about it because we don't want anybody's bike stolen back there. But that ramp is not wide enough. And what I witnessed towards the end of the year when it was starting to get rainy and there was leaves piled up along that ramp, it wasn't really clear exactly where the ramp was and wasn't. And I saw a kid on a bike hit that ramp, face plant. And I wasn't sure if that kid was going to get back up. And this is where, and I often talk about it when we talk about the Los Altos High School projects, Principal Giglio was standing right on the corner of Homestead and Mary because I was about to dial 911 and I saw him running over. And the kid got back up. But my point is that ramp needs to be a little wider. And I actually ride there sometimes and I'd like it a little wider too. If you're not an experienced cyclist, you can miss that ramp. So that's this area by the high school. The next one that I want to talk about is originally this project borders was Homestead Road, and it went from Foothill Expressway down to Stelling. It did not include Vineyard that got added on, so Vineyard Drive from Foothill to Deodora. And the little bit of Grant frontage from Homestead to however far you're at this point, the project, what's planned, were added on after the fact based upon a request from, I think, a consultant that the city had, Jaime. And those plans were not reviewed well in public format like all the other plans were. So I think a little more attention needs to be given to the Los Altos specific add-on plans. So we make sure that the details are right before they're implemented. Now, I will comment on those plans. I think on the Vineyard side, I can't remember what side the sidewalk was proposed on. There's part of the Vineyard has a sidewalk now, so like somebody has to go look on where the sidewalk's proposed. And then there's like a pork chop island over there and cars in the morning because you get stacked up and vehicles can't all make the left turn on Green. So the people go over to the pork chop side on Vineyard and make a funky U-turn, and then there's all kinds of things going on. So some design needs to get carefully looked at there. The other side that I will say is grant frontage. So I want to make sure that we're solving the problem here. And if you pull the police data as you're talking about collisions and records, you will find that there is a severe collision of a Cupertino middle school student going to school on grant frontage around Chris Drive just before Homestead, diagonal across in the road to move to the path that's on the opposite side of the road, gets hit by a car, had a severe injury, goes to Stanford. And that situation is because the middle school kids, especially, have to get to that path on the other side because going through, what does some parents call it? The Bermuda Triangle, the triangle. It's going through there and getting to the Trader Joe's is kind of impossible for the smaller kids. So making sure that they can get over to that path safely is important. The challenge really is you simultaneously have traffic coming from towards Los Altos on Homestead Road, and some of that traffic goes on to Foothill. Some of it stands right there at that traffic signal light, waiting for the light at Foothill to go. And other parts of that traffic come down Homestead and they go straight on Grant Frontage. Grant Frontage is a straightaway. For people who like to speed and step on the gas, you can come down Grant Frontage, and if you have come down Homestead, if you have a clear way, you step on the gas and you can fly down Grant Frontage. You should not do that. But you don't always have visibility in that intersection where Grant Frontage hits Homestead Road. That, I think, is the very spot that you want the students to cross. And it makes me very, 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 very nervous, number one. Number two, it's not fully solving the problem. It's just moving the problem a little bit farther back. Because the problem has been the kids are on the wrong side of the road because they're trying to get to Cupertino Middle School safely, and we got all this shopping complex and freeways and everything for them to get to. So there's kind of a path part of the way, and how do we utilize that path? There are three kinds of, besides the kids who come across from Vineyard across the expressway, there are three ways that kids approach that intersection where your project starts. One is they cross the expressway at Arboretum and enter by Lucky. Two, they come down Newcastle Avenue and hit Grant Frontage and then head that way. Also right by Lucky's. That one down, these two serve huge neighborhoods. And that's how those kids flow to school. The third area is they come near Woodland Library and head towards the school. There's fewer kids using that from middle and high school. More of them are using Newcastle and Arboretum, but all of those are used. So I would invite you to come, and I'm happy to join you in the morning when the kids are on the way to school. And I think Cupertino Middle School has a late start on Wednesday morning. So pick a different morning when they're all middle school and high school are all there at the same time. Lucky's parking lot, great meeting spot. And then between Newcastle, on Grant Frontage, between Newcastle especially and Homestead Road, see what's happening. And what you're gonna find is kids are coming across Arboretum, coming across the expressway. The kids usually heading to high school go in the bike lane on the right side of the road. The kids going in the middle school are told, get over on the Lucky side as soon as you can. And then now let's take the other kids coming down Newcastle. Some of them come up to the Newcastle corner. And there's also been collisions at that corner, reported or not, I don't know. My friend's friend was hit pushing her stroller there. But those kids come down Newcastle, or they just go through the Lucky's parking lot through the back way, and they just come pouring through that area, and they stay on the wrong side of the road, because crossing through Grant Frontage and Arboretum, where the expressway, there's a couple feet there, where the expressway is dumping that traffic in, no parent is gonna send their kids through that intersection. So they tell their kids stay on the wrong side of the road. So I think my point here is I know you may not want to expand the project boundaries, but that's what I'm asking you to do. And the reason I'm asking you to do it is because the problem isn't getting solved if you don't do it. The problem's just getting shifted a little bit. But if you want to solve the problem, you got to start in a different spot. And I hope you think about it. I invite you again to come over in the morning The school start times are usually listed on the school websites, you know, go on your own, or I'm happy to join. But take a look, you'll see what I'm seeing. And I think at one point when City Manager Jordan was here, myself and Jaime and our council liaison went over there one morning, and I remember Jaime being shocked. He's like, where are all these kids coming from? Where are they going? I'm like, they're all going to the middle school and high school, and they're all from our neighborhood. And if you go over to the middle school and high school and you do bike counts, which I volunteered to do when Cupertino did them for Homestead High, is what you will find over at Homestead High School is 1/3, maybe not quite a half, of the kids who bike to Homestead High School are coming from LaSalle. Are coming from LaSalle. And so we need to get this safe route done right, and I really appreciate the effort you're making, and I am going to cross my fingers and say a little good word that we get the money to move this to the next stages sooner rather than later. And you have my full support at every step of the way. And I would finally say that that little intersection by Trader Joe's and the gas station and everything else, that is a lot of turn movements and a lot of things going on. The more you can, things like adding turn pockets to move into the gas station are very concerning to me. I think the more that you can limit any kind of vehicle turn movements in that whole area, the better. And for please sakes, somebody make, and this is, I'm almost done, somebody make the county remove their yield sign. Actually, make them move the free right-hand turn that comes off of northbound Foothill Expressway onto Homestead Road, because there's just a free-flowing set of cars always coming around that corner. Please have them remove that. And until they remove the free right-hand turn, could we get it turned into a stop sign? Because I think the city turned in the middle of the Triangle Island. We used to have a yield sign, and these all acted as merges in busy rush hours. The city put a stop sign in there, and I was not a fan of that. And I will tell you, when I stop there and there's a lot of traffic coming, the angle that that's at, I can't see the cars coming. And then when I'm trying to look for the cars, the kids can be coming up next to me on their bikes. And so, again, I will stop, but all those movements in there are make me very nervous. So I will conclude with saying thank you. Thanks to everyone who's involved in this project. You don't see the community here, but Lauren, you remember the hundreds of people that were at Homestead High School when these community meetings were held. The community knows what you're doing, and it's greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Go ahead.
I have a short comment and a question. The comment is that, I think you can hear from the passion on the commission that we would, love to see this project move forward, and the sooner funding could happen, the better, obviously. But we don't know what, if anything, we can do to help make that happen. I know you're going to present to the council at the end of this month. I think the council and the mayor have already vocalized at least some of them their support. They probably want to know the same thing. If it would be helpful to have a formal endorsement by the commission, I would be happy to make a motion to for the commission to endorse the project in terms of moving to the next step, if that is anything that you think would be valuable.
Is there a question for?
Or do we think, in addition to that, do we think we should just have an open motion that the commission can do anytime that VTA is applying for a grant, that we authorize any chair, whoever's our chair or chair and vice chair at the time, that they're allowed on behalf of this commission to do a support letter. That would be another.
Today it's just an
option.
informational item, it's not a discussion item, so
Okay.
not a motion for it, but I think it's a valid question, it's something that would be helpful, it's a question
So
for
the
you.
question is,
Happy
would
to
that be
answer.
helpful?
I would say yes for grant writing. I don't know if you need, maybe staff can say if a motion like that is necessary for the commission to write a support letter, so. But yeah, absolutely, having the support of the commission would be very.
Well, I think we should agendize that if we have to do that in
We
order to
can,
get that done.
we can talk
And
about
if-
the visual agenda item.
And if we don't need to have it agendized, agree that, it sounds like you're saying yes, I'm saying yes, is Tom is saying yes, Wes is saying yes. So even if we don't vote on it, that's a majority right there, so I think we can do a support letter anytime a grant needed. I don't think anything else is
I'm
needed.
pretty sure the commission at that time would be supportive, so.
But I think sometimes there isn't time
Yeah.
to bring it to our agenda,
Sure.
so having a sense in advance.
Thank
Well, I'm
you.
also saying that's not mutually exclusive, right? So I don't think that, I think that's a great idea, Stacy. But I also think it would be a good idea to agendize a discussion and then as a potential motion to demonstrate our support now, because we don't know when that funding application is going to occur, depending upon what comes up.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Steve. Any other comments? Right. Okay, thank you. I don't have any additional comments, and I agree with a lot of the statements the commissioners have made. I'm not going to repeat it. I thank you for coming today, and I think the community really values the fact that you have brought this project and spearheaded to the point where you've collected the input from multiple communities, and I think that's valuable. My only comment is for you to publish that design, so maybe not all the commissioners have had a chance to look at it in detail. And also it's a chance for the public to provide some additional inputs, like what Commissioner Banerjee has provided. So that's my only ask. And, I look forward to also doing that letter of support when we get a chance. I'm looking forward to your presentation to the city council this week as well. So thank you very much.
And Chair, it might be letters,
Yeah.
because if they have to reply for multiple grants, yeah.
Okay, very good. Anything else? Very good. Thank you. Yeah. All right. We get to our meeting, rest of the meeting, agenda items. First, take a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting, unless people have comments on the meeting items. No, I'll take a first, I'll take a.
You want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Okay.
There we go. Got out of turn.
Second, too.
There we go.
First and second.
Are you seconding, Tom?
Sure.
All right, everyone's.
First and second.
Aye.
Thank you. All right. We have a second agenda item, and this is to appoint the representative of the VTA's Bicycle and Ped Advisory Committee, the BPAC, for the 2024-26 term. I believe our current representative is Commissioner Banerjee, and
I'll nominate her too.
before we go forward with this, I'd like to have Commissioner Banerjee maybe describe, the status of what the work item is and what is the representative do and so on. So
Yeah.
if you have a few minutes to do that, that would be appreciated.
Yeah, happy to do that. So every jurisdiction in the county has the opportunity to send a representative to the BTA Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. As a representative to that committee, you are a liaison to your local city's BPAC, Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, or equivalent. Every city has a little bit different. We have a complete streets commission. In addition to the cities and of course the towns, town of Los Altos Hills, etc. The county also sends a representative, I think someone from the roads commission typically. And so what you do is the VTA BPAC serves as both the bicycle and pedestrian advisory committee to the VTA or the VTA's needs. They also serve, it's a dual BPAC. They also serve as the BPAC to the county. And it ladders up to the roads commission, who then goes to, they have some equivalent of planning over there. So it has the dual role of looking at both the VTA things and the county things. So that's the first thing. The committee meets once a month, except there's like 3 months a year where they only meet if there's like urgent business or important things going on. We tend to meet monthly or 10, 11 times a year. You look at recommending funding for bicycle and pedestrian advisory projects, specifically Measure B funding, which gets sent to the VTA Board of Directors for approval. And then there's several other grant fundings that you look at. OGAG, which is federal funds that flow through MTC, which is where the San Antonio money came from. And then there's TDA 3 and TFCA funds, the clean air funds that also come through there. And sometimes this year we looked at STIP funding, which is state funding, and we recommended the first ever a bicycle pedestrian project. Normally those are highway projects that go through there. So we look at funding. Then we look at, I think the project that was just before us, there's a lot of projects like that come to our agenda and we look at the details. I'll be honest and say, a lot of these projects are in other areas of the county. So you're looking countywide. In the case of OBAG, we looked at and Measure B, we looked at the funding scoring criteria. For Measure B, we made recommendations to the VTA board. For OBAG, the recommendations go back to MTC. We also have the job, now there's a MTC is the Metropolitan Transportation Group, which is the 9 county, it's the Bay Area wide one, so they kind of are above VTA. So that group made, I think a lot of the grant projects now need to go through a complete streets review before grant funding as part of the application process. So the VTA BPAC has the job of, especially if a local BPAC doesn't do that, we pick up the slack. So sometimes we're looking at that across the county. And then we look at a lot of other projects that VTA wants to bring to us, like better bus stops or their new transit networks, you know, and this last year and a half has been a big planning year where we've done the 2050 transportation plan, we've done the environmental plan, the big planning efforts, but those have probably only come around every couple decades, and we're largely, I think, completing those. Those are some of the big things. The other thing that I will say is the committee meets in person at VTA headquarters once a month. Takes a long time to get there in our lovely traffic. So I think, does anybody have any questions?
So just a quick question. Are the meetings mandatory in person or people can join by Zoom?
They follow the state laws, which means there's the Brown Act and then the Assembly Bill provision that allows for some occasional remote attendance if you have the right things. But basically, you're not doing it remotely all the time. That's just occasionally, and you have to follow the rules. Yeah, but the members of the public can attend in person or by Zoom, and the meeting takes public comments in person or by Zoom, and of course by email.
Like,
Yeah.
any other questions for Commissioner Banerjee? No? Okay, all right, if that's the case, then, well, let's see if, we want to have a nomination, or anybody wants to self-nominate to be a representative, for the next 2 year, for a 2 more year term, it's a 24-26 term, is that right?
Yes.
Um,
That's in July.
Yeah, they're 2-year terms, that every 2 years we have to.
And starts in July.
Start in July, so, Art, I'll let you, run the election.
Sure. Do you have any nominations?
No.
I nominate Stacy. She does such a great job. So you want to reappoint Stacy? Of course. Somebody? I'll second that. Second that?
And I'll leave it up to anybody else, want to
Anybody
set
else?
the point. And if that's the case, I'll have Stacy see if she wants to accept the nomination.
I thank you very much for the nomination. I inherited this job from Wes Brinsfield, who did it every time he was on this committee, and nobody wanted to do it. And our former chair sent me at one point, and so I ended up with the job, but it's been a good job, so I appreciate your support.
May I make a comment?
Yeah.
I would just like to thank Stacy
Yes.
for her, ongoing, not only participation, but outstanding participation, in that role. And because of her thoroughness and attention to detail and passion in representing our community.
Thank you.
So thank you from me and, from the community.
I really appreciate that. Unnecessary, but I very much appreciate that. And I will also say that I'm the chair of the committee, and this is my 3rd year serving as chair. And the chairmanship or womanship goes for a calendar year. So I appreciate the reappointment, because then it's not disrupting the committee as well, because they're expecting me to be back. So thank you.
Thank you. So I take it that you accept the nomination, so why don't we do a quick, vote?
Sure. Commissioner Hamel?
Aye.
Yes.
And I strongly support this, and, I wanted to strongly, second, Commissioner Katz's sentiments as well. And your work is deeply appreciated, both by the community in Los Altos, but I think countywide. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, so, get to the next item on the agenda. You got that? Okay, so we're gonna discuss, subcommittee's work, and also a formation of a new subcommittee, potentially. Fortunately, we have no attendance, so I'm not sure how that's gonna go, but we can discuss that. But first, I want to start with the Jordan Subcommittee to see if the subcommittee has any work comments at all, or any work has been done over the last. Okay, so there's no subcommittee report.
I think we gave the subcommittee report at the last meeting. To my knowledge, I personally made a couple of phone calls to concerned residents, who I was not aware of prior to that meeting, but, to my knowledge, there hasn't been any new work that hasn't been reported.
Okay, good. And I think the intention was us to first to keep the subcommittee open for another month, just in case there's any questions by the staff and, staff, do you have any comments on it?
No, no comments.
Okay, great. All right, if that's the case, then I would move to sort of,
You
yeah,
have public comments.
I will, yeah. So we should, yeah, and before we do that, let me open up for public comments. I specifically for item 4A. Any comments related to the ad hoc subcommittee's work on the Jordan project? I see that there are a few comments here, specific to the Jordan Drive. I'm not sure these are specific to the subcommittee, but I will entertain those comments today. So first I have, and I'll give you all 3 minutes each. I have David Williams.
Very much.
Yes, thank you. I got the notice that this meeting was going to occur from the A-frame that was outside of the school. So thank you. That's definitely working. And it was very nice to see you calling for people to go and actually stand and see the streets in the other thing, because that's my experience too. So I don't have very much to say, but personally, I was fine with the option 4 because it basically returned it to the previous status. I know not everybody agrees, but we're a lot of neighbours and we all have different opinions. I was at the school meeting, and it sounds like the school also have a lot of opinions and perhaps are not all as pro-bike and anti-car. And some of the views there was a long discussion in 2 meetings, so I was expecting some of that to come through and filter back, but apparently not. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bill Bassett.
I'm getting tired of appearing here. Bill Bassett. So I want to talk about liability for a few minutes. About 4 or 5 of the neighbors met with the city manager about 3 weeks ago. He acknowledged that what has happened on Jordan is a mess and a fiasco. He apologized, which was nice. And then he said that most likely that nothing's going to happen for a while, won't happen as fast as we all would like it to happen. So it'll be delayed. And I brought up the fact, wait a minute, this is really a serious risk for an accident. And the longer it sits there, the greater likelihood that the accident will happen. And my concern was that the city created the mess, and then if they leave it alone as it is, they'll end up paying the victims of the accident when the accident does happen. That kind of silly. So I would say, and I don't think it'll ever happen. The way to avoid the accident, the way to avoid the city's responsibility for the accident and responsible to the victims is to erase what happened and put a line down the middle of the street. But it's so simple, it makes so much sense, it probably won't happen. That's the sad thing. So the longer it sits there, the greater risk is to the city. And that makes, to me, no sense. I wish that the city had somebody that could give them some good sound advice.
Thank you. Mike?
I was also my name is Mike Emmerich. I live on Los Ninos Way. And I was also at the meeting at the Mountain View Los Altos School District on 4/15. And some news, I don't know why the communication between the school district, the city, and this committee, why they don't communicate a little bit better. But we did hear word that at least 35 parking spaces that is at the student site service building that has just been completed. Those are going to be changed over into the main parking lot to student parking. So we're going to get 35. That's only 97 student parking. I have actually, if you're interested, I have a count that this school district just recently did for for Los Altos. And one of the questions I brought up, was actually a trustee brought up, is how does this compare to what they have at Mountain View? And I know that the committee has nothing to do with the parking. But the thing that worries me about Jordan and the way we're going about this is we're not waiting for the school to fix the problems that they have. I know I have more than that. But we need to have the school do what they need to do, increase the spaces that they have available. And then we need to do an extensive traffic study. I think David Williams' traffic study was better than the one day that we had for traffic study. The traffic study that we had did not tell us how many students park on our streets north of Jordan. We estimate it's 130 to 150 a day. These are narrow streets. We have people, you know, you've heard it all before. So I think that, you know, the problem that we have is I just don't want another Cuesta where we go through 4 or 5 plans, spend a whole lot of money without going through and doing a study with the improvements that the school is doing, completed it, including adding more parking. They've talked about taking the portables out and putting parking there. They've talked about the, you know, and I also suggested, which has been suggested before, take out the tennis courts where the construction is and make that staff parking, because the staff is now parking on Jordan. That's unfair to the students that can't park in the parking lot because juniors do drive to school and they're not allowed to. The other thing the school does is the permit process, quite frankly, is horrible. They don't have an application online like Mountain View does. They have more restrictions, unlike Mountain View. It isn't coordinated between the 2 schools. And I've mentioned this to one of the superintendents there. I've written him an email as well, explaining these differences. So I think it's important that we coordinate together before we spend a whole lot of money on what we want to do with Jordan and do it right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. So let me bring it back for some discussion. Before we decide what to do with the subcommittee, are there any comments from any of the
I
commissioners?
have 2 questions.
Questions?
Yeah, I forgot to ask one before, and then I have another one after hearing the public comment. So the first one is, I wanted to ask staff if I attended the 2x2, which had 2 FUHSD board members and 2 city council members on Zoom. I attended that, but I didn't attend the school board meeting, and I'm not sure everybody attended even one of these meetings. So one, could we get an update from staff on these 2 meetings? And then the second question, which I think is also for staff, is I'm hearing stuff about maybe the timing of the project is changing, or I think I heard Bill Bassett say that, or there might be more delays. Could we get an update on what's happening with the project since it was last year?
Yeah, a CIP manager.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioner, and members of the commission. I was going to give this as a staff update. Just to let you know, and to answer your question, the 2x2 was, like I said, attended by city council as well as the board supervisor, the school board supervisor. I've had extensive meetings with them after that meeting because they wanted to be updated on what's going on. Since then, I've had numerous discussions with the school to understand what the schedule is. I've been out there numerous times, both in the morning and in the afternoon, to see what the traffic condition is, as well as how the kids are coming to and from school. Based on my observation, it is a challenge in the fact that kids tend to not obey the laws, rules of the road. But it's not just strictly students, it's actually the parents as well. So just to kind of give you a general idea, we are in the process of completing the redesign of Jordan based on the commission's recommendation on how the Jordan is going to be restriped. So I have finally approved the plans, comments. I've sent it back to the consultant for final revisions. We hope to be back out for construction probably within the next couple of weeks, with the understanding that we're going to award before the end of this fiscal year. The reason why we're trying to rush this along is because school gets out on the 15th of June. So we want to start construction immediately after that, because we have a very small window when the schools close with a minimal impact. So we're going to be doing that in the near future. Yes, sir.
Just a quick question. Have there been any changes since we've seen the final plans that were presented by the consultant?
No, sir.
Plan that's being moved forward?
No, sir. It's exactly how the commission has recommended on the striping.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Okay, just on the subcommittee itself, just coming back to the subcommittee, not the Jordan project in general, which is in front of us. Since I think the work of the subcommittee has been completed, for the project that's we had originally, tasked with. So if there's no additional work to be done, then I think we should, disband that subcommittee, and then we can come back to see if some additional work needs to be done with a specific request, and then we can reconstitute if necessary. I don't know if, I just want to open for discussion, to get your thoughts on it, and then we can decide.
So, my view, if that makes sense, it makes sense to, end the subcommittee. And if that takes a motion, we should do that for now, because we can always reconvene the subcommittee should something change moving forward, because given where staff is right now and where the project is in its trajectory, I don't see what role the subcommittee would play at this point.
Thanks. That sounds right to me. The one thing I would think about is there a way that we can streamline the ability to bring folks together in a subcommittee if something comes up in the future? I think now I personally just have more of an understanding of how that process goes now. So I think we could all work together and make that happen. So I feel confident about that, but I would just, hopefully we can, jump on if a need did arise, if staff needs, or if anything comes about where we need to have collaboration.
I think there is a, if you don't have to wait till the next
Yes.
Meeting, there is a way that is, if the commissioners speak strongly about it, to provide that input to the staff, and they can agendize it. So there is a way to do that. We don't have to discuss here as to whether we want to put it on the agenda, and the staff feels strongly that this is valuable, then they can put it on the agenda.
Yeah, well, I'd just like to make one other comment, which is that, I think that the feedback that we've gotten from the community has been invaluable. Even though there's been a lot of disagreement, not all consistent with each other's disagreement as to how it could be improved beyond what was actually being implemented. I think what's different about this than Questo or some of the other projects is that simply changing the road itself, the subcommittee felt that simply changing a road itself would not solve the problem, that there were ancillary things that had to happen in conjunction with changing the road in terms of changing behavior, and that is work that the school would have to do, and that could be assisted by the city. And our belief is that that will really make a huge difference in terms of the overall effectiveness of the new design. And so perhaps at that point, it might make sense, if staff believes it would be helpful, to then have the commission re-engage in some way. But I don't know how or when that would happen. But certainly right now, there's no role for the subcommittee. But I would like to offer thanks to the community, to especially those of you that I've seen here so many times that I can't count. So thank you for your input.
Do you have any comments there?
I don't have any.
Okay.
I would say that since, the staff said that they haven't made any changes, that it's a go ahead to shut down the subcommittee for that.
When we have openings on our commission, there isn't any right now. But sometimes the people who come here in one of these activities are really great candidates to apply for openings for our commission when we have them.
I don't see anybody running for the door.
I do. I do.
I'm getting blocked.
Before we take a motion to do that, I would like to thank the subcommittee for your work. I think it was the two things that were critical in that report that you produced. One is not just the items that we had discussed and collated, but also the recommendations, some of the things that you made as to how the school and some of the other stakeholders can support and make this safer was very critical. And I think that captured the sentiments of the public comments very well. So I want to thank the work of the subcommittee for doing that. So having said that, should we, should I take a motion for us to shut down the subcommittee? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if we need a motion. I think you, I think you can just disband it as the chair.
I can do that, but I just wanted to make sure that everyone's okay with it. So if everyone says aye, I would like to do that. Yes. All right, thanks. Yeah. Okay, let's see. So let's talk about the work plan subcommittee. Last time we wanted to put this on the agenda for us to discuss the formation of a subcommittee to work on the work. So I'd like to maybe have a short discussion as to what each of the commissioners might think would be critical for us to put as part of the work of that subcommittee, and then we can vote on to say it is the right time for us to form that subcommittee. So I'll take some comments first. Right. Nope.
I have a question.
Okay.
May I ask a question? So as long as I've been on the commission, the initial draft of the work plan has been presented to the commission by staff. I believe we didn't just come up with it as a group effort. And then the commission then responded to that initial presentation in terms of items that we thought were appropriate and where we needed to focus our attention, our priorities. And now that we're working with a new team, I'd like to get staff's opinion as to how they see that proceeding.
Commissioners, I just want to make sure that I understand your question correctly. You're asking what role the commissioner wants to be involved in the selection of projects? Is that what I'm understanding? Or can you please?
Do you want to collaborate with the subcommittee of commissioners on the creation of the work plan?
What are you, on the work plan, what are you looking for?
For this commission.
For
right?
this commission.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what I heard from you, Steve, is that in the past, we've seen staff kind of put at least the initial version of that together. And then there's more of a collaboration around just developing it and finalizing it for the year, working together on that. Do we want to continue that? Do we want to work in that vein?
So I think in other years, the commission has partnered with staff to create the work plan. I think this year, it's been presented to us and we're reacting to it. Yeah, yeah.
I apologize, I'm not, it's been a long day already, so a little slower on the uptake today. When you're asking for a work plan, what is it that you envision is in that context?
No, you give it to you.
So my view is that it's the primary areas of focus that we're going to spend over the next 12 months. All right, what are we going to really focus on strategically in terms of where we can have the biggest impact in collaborating with staff on refining the whole process of prioritizing what we do and how we do it. And typically there are, we meet 12 times a year, right? And so that limit. What?
We don't meet in July and December. Let's see. I think it's more than that. Yeah.
So we have to really think about, where are the areas, not only where do we spend time, but where don't we spend time? And staff has been very helpful in that collaborative process by saying, here's some stuff that we just do. And you guys really don't need to focus on that, but if there's something that bubbles up, we'll bring it to you and then we'll add it to the agenda and we'll review it. So my view of what the subcommittee would probably do is to sit down with staff and where staff would basically take a look at from your perspective in terms of what's been funded and what has to be done, and sit down with that subcommittee, and hopefully the members of that subcommittee would have some background and context that maybe can add some value to that. And we would come up with a tentative work plan that we would then permit, show the commission and say, all right, let's hash it out.
Just kind of give the commission some sense of direction we're trying to go with. We're hoping at this point in time, we have stable staffing to start taking on some of the challenges that we have in the city. So we're trying to change our focus from just being reactionary to more preventative maintenance.
Yes.
So, but what I mean by that is, I'm currently in the process of rebuilding our capital project to identify what are some of the areas that we need to do surface reconstruction, because the road has deteriorated to a point where we have to reconstruct it. To try to figure out, okay, instead of just constantly doing those kind of stuff, we need to work on roads that has to be reconstructed, but at the same time, roads that we could still save by other means of treatment. So we're trying to go into more of that maintenance. And to do that, we're also looking at council's direction on to focus on the safe route to school. So we are focused on that aspect of it. We're looking at no longer just the PCI, but what are the routes that the kids are taking? How do we make it safer? We're also in the process of trying to do a more of a maintenance aspect in the fact that instead of just watching a road striping deteriorate, we're trying to get into a maintenance cycle of going through and saying, this is the number of miles we're going to go ahead and restripe. So that's the new mentality we're trying to go with. And I'm always open to the commission's opinion about what projects we take on. If I may suggest, let us come up with some projects, given the council has given us a very clear direction on what they're asking us to do. Go through our roads and try to come up with a several list of projects, why we feel like these are projects that we really want to take on. And then I'll be more than happy to present to the commission, trying to obtain feedback, and as well as, if we need to, a priority of how we're going to approach these locations.
Would you be able to do that for next meeting?
No, sir. The reason why is because I'm still in the process of trying to figure out our budget. And in the meantime, I'm also trying to get caught up on a lot of the backlog. Yeah, no, I need to get certain stuff out the door so that we don't lose an opportunity to do some construction this summer. So I'm trying to get those projects out the door first. And right after those are out, I'm gonna be going to shifting of the mode and trying to figure out, okay, what road needs to be done with what? I'm going through, yes, sir. Yeah, no, I'm going through and trying to figure out what is the best treatment of our roads. Is it a total reconstruction, a surface overlay? Is it a slurry seal? Is it a micro seal? I'm trying through this process.
Didn't they already have that also listed as was it PMI or something?
PCI. We do have that condition, but that is a static point in time. So I need to go back out to those roads and see, has it deteriorated beyond what it has already been identified? Or do I have to think of another treatment plan? I don't know how often we go through that update.
Instead of static, so I'm just.
I think that report has to be done every 2 years. It's a requirement, I think, at a minimum.
So go ahead, you make your comments. Or questions, I guess.
I didn't mean to interrupt everyone else's.
No, go ahead.
I think the biggest comment I would have is I think it's important to do CIP projects and get focused on what we're actually going to accomplish, 100%. I think that this commission has also done other things besides CIP projects, including policy. So I don't have my list in front of me and all our stuff, but I know AB 43, the traffic calming one, was that the state gave the opportunity for. That was one big opportunity. There was also the policy that council had directed our commission to work on around development and making standard objective things. So, because we're not doing those development reviews anymore, like those kind of policies, for example. And then there was multi-jurisdictional projects. We just heard about one tonight. I happened to drive on El Camino Real today, like, so I know they're supposed to be working on that, but there's other kind of multi-jurisdictional projects. We sometimes have a joint meeting with Mountain View. It just seems to be that I guess I'm just feeling it's not comprehensive. And then I think my other question is similar to Tom's, I don't wanna get too much down in the details, but are you talking about, I assume that this year's paving street selection is done.
It's already done.
And so you're talking about next year's street selection. That you're ahead, that's good, because it's not really ahead, it's because to meet those timelines, we have to be starting
Right.
at the beginning of the school year, at the very latest, the community meetings for any of the Safe Routes projects.
Right.
So good, maybe we're finally gonna do it right this time. Yeah, yeah.
I think our staffing is at a level where it's stabilized, so that we could start getting into the weeds of actually getting into a correct schedule of our construction.
Yeah, and I think what the commission is kind of seeking, that this work plan keeps coming up, is where are we headed, right? Versus just like every month, a couple days before the meeting, we get an agenda.
Right.
Where are we headed, both in the next 12 months? And some of us like to see kind of the 5-year plan. And I actually think, and this is my personal opinion, and I can be voted out of the room, but I sort of think having a parking lot is also helpful, because we have this agenda item, future agenda items. And if we don't have a vision of where we're headed, or if we don't have what did you say, what we're doing and what we're deciding not to do,
Right.
if we don't have a parking lot, people keep bringing up, can we do this, can we do that, what about this, what about that? And it's like, it's there, it's just happens to be in there.
And I think one of the challenges is that the parking lot is invisible. Because, I believe that it's in people's minds, it's not on a document that we all can look at and share. For example, there are lots of things that could get suggested as future agenda items, but that laundry list, from my perspective, doesn't exist anywhere, or at least I can reference it, except in my own notes, and everybody's notes are different. And so I think that our process needs improvement, and, which is fine, because that gives us the ability to then make it better. And so I think part of our work plan also should have to do with how we make ourselves more effective. So I'd like to see that added to the work plan, a process piece.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit, how we can make ourselves more effective?
Well, in terms of, right now, we depend on staff, and maybe that makes sense in terms of, maintaining a record and capturing information. We don't have basically a commission, database, right? And what happens at the meeting is captured in the minutes. But the work, if it's not within a project document, the stuff that comes up the meeting is scattered among all those different meeting records where it actually shows up, right?
If I may suggest, Commissioner.
I think there's some process things that could be improved.
I totally agree with you that we need to have a running list of items that we want to talk about. But at the same time, we at the staff level are still trying to recover from the challenge that we had as a department. So let us get through the process first, so that we could start grabbing onto how to resolve some of these issues. I mean, on a day-to-day basis, we're just putting out fires at this point in time. So I'm trying to get our staff refocused so that we could try to get projects out, so we are just trying to strive to make some improvements in the community. At the same time, we're going back and trying to address issues that has been brought up to our attention. So that's one of the reasons why I'm trying to go through this process of, instead of just being reactive, I'm trying to be proactive. And even in my capital improvement project list or the budget, I'm putting money aside so that we could do our routine maintenance, so that we could try to maximize the small amount of staff we currently have. And if we need to, we could try to augment our staff by hiring consultants to do some of the work in conjunction with us. So I understand where your concerns are, Commissioner. I know this is an old excuse, but please give us a little bit of time. Let us get caught up and get our head above water, so that we could try to be more effective in providing the information and the service that you're requesting from us. So it's gonna take a little while. What I'm already thinking about, when I mentioned overlay project for next year, I'm already thinking about a year ahead, and I'm trying to think 2 years ahead and what we need to do. One of the challenges that we also have is the funding. How are we gonna pay for all this? So right now, as I'm going through my daily activities, I'm also looking at what are grants that we could actually apply for. Like VT stated, majority of the grants are going to more of a challenged communities. So we are considered a very affluent community. For us, it is very difficult to obtain grants. But we have to still try to make a very good case to say that we have needs as much as some of the challenged communities. So we're trying to go through that process, but unfortunately, it's gonna take time. The grants that we're applying for is not gonna be available for 2 years. So I am trying to figure out, how do I get to our community to that point, so that we can try to offset some of our general funds with other funding, so we can try to deliver more for less. So I hear your concerns. We are keeping track of some of the stuff that starting to elevate to a certain level that we need to address. We're trying to get ahead of that by trying to address it before it gets to that fire that we're seeing. So I understand you want a work plan. Let us go through what we need to do until June, so we could get some of these projects out. And we'll sit down with the commissioners and come up with some of the projects and how you guys could try to help us go through the process.
That makes sense.
Okay, go ahead.
So, just a comment on the question. So the work plan that, they came up with, one thing that I like to, you don't necessarily do it, but in the previous one, Marissa did it, was they had a list of the priority list. So 1 all the way down to like 10 or 20, whatever it was. And also, so things were listed that way, so we could concentrate more on the higher priority items. And also there was a certain amount of how much completion there was. So I kind of like to see that. I'm not saying you had to do it, but I thought it was very helpful, so we could concentrate on. But then the other thing being, what you're saying is that you won't have it done for next month. So I don't even think that we should even do the subcommittee until we at least have the work plan in place. I don't even think we should even start that, the discussion with that, until we actually have a work plan. It seems kind of just kind of the point.
Just to kind of give you a general idea of what's going on behind the scene that we're trying to address. We don't know what our revenue is. We don't know where our general fund is. That's what we're going through the process. We have a general idea of where the money's gonna be and how much the money is. Based on that, we have a general idea of what projects we want to work on. But the specifics cannot be done until council has adopted the budget, saying, yes, this is how much you have for these projects. So that I could go through and say, okay, given this finite number of money, how are we gonna program our projects so we can try to deliver as much as we can?
It'll drive our.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it will drive everybody right now. So at this point in time, all we're trying to do is get projects out. So like I stated earlier, the overlay project is coming out. I've done my final comments. I've also reviewed all the specifications. I've returned all those for updates. I'm hoping that we will be able to have our plans completed and be out on the street by May, so that we could hopefully open bid by end of May and award by council by June. That's my current plan.
Yeah, yeah, I'm happy to make a comment. I sort of appreciate your candor. And I think what we're hearing from staff is give them a little bit more space.
Give us time. We will be very transparent with council, commission.
And I'm also hearing from our new director that there's some optimism for stable staff that's gonna be here for a very long time.
I have no plan of going anytime soon, so.
And that, we appreciate, so it is, so, and it sounds like you're really busy through June, getting, the budget, the paving, these things together. I do think that there would be value, as the vice chair mentioned, is having, some subcommittee of commissioners kind of work with you and talk about some of this. And I, as I've already said, I think there's both CIP projects and other things, policy things, multi-jurisdictional things, safe routes to school, educational encouragement things. There are some other category of things that I think could be reviewed when a subcommittee would discuss that. I'm personally okay, and I feel like I'm hearing it from my fellow commission members, that maybe we reconvene with staff. And I don't know if it's this summer or if the process starts this summer, if the process starts after the July break, this fall, to kind of talk about how we're gonna go through it. I think some more conversation. The commission for several years has also requested a little bit of discussion about how to improve community outreach before a project, so we get everybody showing up to give us input, and how do we collect that input? Because it just feels like we never quite get it right. And I know that that's a challenge to do, and it's not just unique for us, it's like comes across in other areas. And I think what I've heard people say is that our commission and the streets, the team has made a lot of effort there. So I think we should continue together being leaders in that, because it's important to have the community feedback. Because there's nothing more important than what happens on the street in front of you. And we will hear from the public.
May I add something to that? And I don't want to, and this is an anecdote, right? And it's just an example. I'm not making a proposal that this is of major importance at all. So I walk one of the safe routes to school routes every day because it's my exercise. And it's about 2 to 3 to 4 miles. And it's a route that goes pretty much to Egan Junior High School, which is co-located with a charter school, past Santa Rita School, and around that neighborhood. And 4 of the streets that I walk on are streets that are heavily trafficked for drop-off and pickup. And while I was walking, actually, it was about a week and a half ago, I ran into a woman, and she was walking her dog, and we happened to be walking at the same pace. And we were chatting, and somehow the fact that I was on this commission came up, and she said, well, I sat outside my house because my kid goes to there, and I counted cars and I counted pedestrians, and this is what's happening right now, and this one street's problematic, and if we could just calm the traffic a little bit, we'd get more kids on bikes and more kids walking, because the parents are telling the kids, we don't think it's safe for you to walk a bike right now on this street because there's too many cars, and they're taking their kids to one of the schools and they're driving fast and all this stuff, right? And I thought, what's interesting is this is a mom who does that, but she doesn't do what the person who's sitting in this room does and come to our commission to report stuff, right? It doesn't get reported. And so nobody, either on the commission or on staff, has an inkling that there's an area that potentially could be addressed. So one of the things I think about is, what is the process that we use as a combination of staff and commission to actually narrow down what are the safe routes to school where we want to invest, right? I mean, how do you determine that? Well, just looking at what happened around the high school and the amount of safe route to school designations for all the streets was challenging. And we could see around the whole Jardine project and all the inputs that came in, how involved that was and what it took to even work it, right? So what I'm thinking is that one of the things that a subcommittee can do is to actually talk about things like if actually making what we understand the safe routes to be better, how might we go about that? Or things like that, you know, because we don't have the time to do that as a commission because we don't meet often enough. So a work plan subcommittee could look at different aspects of what our commission work plan is, both process as well as what other things should be looked at. And when we do get around to putting that subcommittee together, my thought is it should be both some of the most experienced people on the commission and some of the people who are less experienced, so that we can, you know, then come up with fresh ideas and inspiration. That's my thought.
Thank you. I think that was well put, both by you and Commissioner Banerjee, and I had the same sentiment as well. Stephen, do you have an idea? Do you get a sense for, you know, I guess the commission is trying to provide our inputs into not just items that come in front of the commission, but how can we proactively support and bolster the projects that you might be thinking about? There are kind of 4 categories. So those are the CIP projects, which I think have very, you know, once they're prioritized, it's nothing, the commissions have very little to do with it. I mean, you're executing it and you're going forward. And you're already starting to think about the projects for next year. And I think, in that process, I think you're, you know, I feel confident that, you know, you're thinking through this, which means it'll come in front of the commission and we'll be able to provide those inputs. But then there are those other 3 categories that I think has been sort of captured. One is, how do we, you know, there are lots of public comments that come in, and or comments from public as to what they would like to see prioritized. Are those captured and then, you know, and how are they transparently then put into the mix of project that needs to be decided on, prioritized? So that's one. Then the second one is sort of more strategic projects. I would say, I think Commissioner Banerjee was saying that this is more of a policy, but they're more strategic in nature, like the AB 43, like the traffic calming. Some projects that are maybe multi-year projects. Then how do we approach that? I think the commissioners have a lot to say about it. And we don't have the, you know, it's probably not the, you know, but it's not the best either time or even sort of efficiency when you were doing this public forum in a commission meeting. But a subcommittee can also work through this and then be more efficient when we come back to this meeting as to how we approach those. And then the last category is sort of this, you know, kind of the vision plan. There is a, you know, what are we going to do about parking? What are we going to do about streetscapes? So these are sort of more visionary projects as well. But I think we have some inputs and we have a lot to say about it. So it's not so much as creating a work plan, but it's working with the staff to see how we may want to shape the work plan for the following years, provide feedback to the council as to what the commission is, you know, as a feedback to them at the beginning of the year. In the past, we have done that. We have, you know, the commission has, you know, written a letter saying these are things we think the commission should, you know, as a commission, we would like the city council to kind of focus on the strategy and priority. This year it's pretty clear. I think the council has come back and said, let's focus on safe routes to school. Let's kind of not deprioritize, but focus on the safe routes to school over PCI. I think you guys have taken that and run with it, and that's great. But I think going forward, we've done this in the past, and we'd like to do that more. And I think, but for that, for our work plan subcommittee to be effective, I think the engagement of the staff has to be there. And I recognize that this may not be the right time, but I think that's where we're coming from. And I think when you're ready, we would like to come back and engage and, you know, make that happen.
If I may suggest, we re-engage about August, because that's when, July 1st is when, council will adopt the budget. That also will allow me to get about a month worth of being able to look at different streets, different stuff that's out there that needs to be addressed. So let me go ahead and take a look at that. One of the issues that I'm trying to address above all things, some of the street construction and some of the road treatments are more of a 6 months to a year out What I need to do immediately is to go ahead and start doing some of the other stuff, like upgrading some of our reflectivity on our signs, restriping the center medians or some of our lanes. Those are more of a daily safety feature stuff that I need to go ahead and start immediately. So, I mean, I'll be more than happy to engage whatever commission that wants to do the subcommittee. But at the same time, please give me some time so that I could go ahead and take a look at this road, come up with some suggestions, basically, and I'll be more than happy to have inputs from the commission.
So maybe that's the right time for us to then get together and as a subcommittee, make some proposals and projects that we can work together, and then we can come back and discuss it.
Yeah, please keep in mind, I have to make sure that
Yeah.
I follow the commission's, the city council's
Yeah.
directive.
Of course.
And I have to, prioritize safe route to school, since that's where the city council asked us to go.
Okay. Any other comments?
No, just appreciate the collaboration and understand you guys need a little more time being the new team.
Okay, great. So why don't we then table our discussion about the formation of subcommittee until maybe, we have the May meeting and then we're off in July? Yes. We have the June meeting. Maybe at the June meeting, we can, if you feel comfortable, we can talk about it again, maybe if that's the right time. About thinking about August as a potential to form a subcommittee at that time.
Yeah, August is when I'm gonna start doing some of the design, so that's when I'm gonna start thinking about, okay, what are some of the features I gotta think about? What are the timeline I need to work with, as well as when am I gonna go out to the public for comments?
Yeah. Okay, great, good. Okay.
So I have one question, is in terms of our next meeting. Is your sense that by our next meeting, you will know pretty much what the next 3 to 4 months major projects will be that are around?
I already have a sense of idea of what project's gonna be able to be pushed out this fiscal year, and what are the projects we need to push back to the following fiscal year. I already have that general idea, just because of the manpower and some of the challenges that we have had. At this point in time, project that is fully funded and is basically low-lying fruit where I can get it out the door. That's what I'm trying to get out the door. Things I can turn around quickly. Things that's gonna take me a little bit of time, or I need more resource from staff, is what is being pushed out for the next fiscal year.
Okay, great. Any other comments? Final? Okay, good. All right. So we'll close the agenda item, and we'll come back and revisit, in June. See, let's get to the next agenda item. I think we're done with the discussion items. Staff updates. Staff updates.
Well, that's what I was gonna talk to you about. Jarn will be coming out to bid probably in the next month. This is not just Jarn, it's several other locations, about five or six is what has already been identified. I'm actually gonna reduce Shelby from this year's overlay, because when I went out to the street, it appears that there is more of an issue going on. So I would like to do some more investigative research on that road prior to us doing any overlay. But otherwise, the list of projects or list of locations are what has been presented before, I believe, by,
But what did you say you were gonna omit? What?
Shelby I'll be taking out of this year's overlay project. Based on my recent visit to the street, to that cul-de-sac, it looks like there is structural failure out there going on. That's what's causing a lot of the other issues. So he has a compound issue, so I need to do some geotechnical research or study in that area. But the other 5 or 6 location that was identified for this year's overlay will be going out for construction, hopefully by June.
Anything else? Thank you. You were going to do an update 2x2, I guess, so that's already, is there anything else you wanted to add to that, or?
No, since you brought up the 2x2s, like I stated before, I've had numerous discussions with the school boards. They were not aware that the severity of the issues going on out there. So they've engaged to me numerous times. I've already had discussion with Supervisor. Sorry, I just blanked out on their name. One of them was Supervisor.
Sanjay Days.
Sanjay and Supervisor Phil. And they have asked extensive questions about, they wanted to know what's going on. So I've had, informational session where basically we talked about some of the issues. One of the things that we have done, one of the things that I've stated to them is we need cooperation from the school, in the fact that this is not just a city problem, but we need cooperation in the fact that the school needs to figure out how they're gonna handle this, the parking on site. Like you guys, I'm sure have heard from the residents, I've also heard from the parents in the fact that if we are restricting parking or the parking issue that's going on has been a challenge for the students that's coming all the way from Mountain View. And the fact that they don't feel like they have safe route to school. And at the same time, parents that lives up in Los Altos Hills. And the fact that the kids cannot ride the bike uphill at the end of the day. So they're required to ride bikes, drive cars. So I'm trying to balance all that out. I've already had discussion with the principal once. I've had a discussion with the vice principal multiple times. I've also been out there for about a week, just kind of seeing what the traffic patterns are like, how the kids are interacting with the traffic, how fast the cars are going. Some of the behavior of the students is eye-opening. So I'm trying to go ahead and comprehend all that stuff and try to come up with a solution. Like I stated, the new striping plan that is being proposed as part of the new overlay is exactly what the commission has recommended. So we're leaving that alone.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are we done with sub reports? Okay, commissioner reports. Do you have any reports from commissioners? No. Stacy, yes. Why don't you go ahead?
I'll just briefly, I think I already mentioned I attended that 2x2 with FUHSD and the city council. I also attended BTA hosted a community meeting that gave an update on the Homestead Road Safe Routes to School project, similar, the same presentation I think they gave today, and Commissioner Katz also attended that.
Yes.
And so did staff members here,
Yep.
and so did Mayor Weinberg and Councilmember Lynette Lee were also there, along with people from other cities, and it was well attended. And I think there were I heard some similar asks there too from community members, which was asking for some extensions. There was also a lot of discussion about the first thing I brought up near the high school and Kennewick intersection path. And the other thing that I heard that came up was some parents, someone made the comment about nighttime riding, that kids ride at night too. So they said, make the design for night. Those were, as I recall, the public comments outside of the elected and other people there. And then the VTA BPAC update, I think at the last meeting, we were focused on the work for the county, and they gave us project updates, and they had 4 or 5 projects. There was one near us, which was the intersection of Foothill and Arboretum. So if you haven't been down there, there's an active construction project going on right now. And the purpose, as I understand, and I'm gonna send around whatever the county provided us in writing for that meeting so you all can see it, but was traffic signal things and pedestrian improvements. I think the thing that I would flag for staff is when I say one of the things that this commission loves to be engaged in, and I think is valuable and important for our community to be engaged in, is the multi-jurisdictional projects. And this is a particular project that never came before the community and is just being constructed, and nobody gave any input on it. Yet staff may have, but like the public never heard it, see it, saw it, looked at it, gave any feedback, we didn't. And the VTA BPAC, which serves as the county BPAC, also did not. And the County Roads Commission did not. So it never came to the public, which for me is not okay. And I appreciate that it's another agency, but I think we have to take our job to like say, our partnership with staff to say these things need to come here. Now, I talked to the county staff and they promised me that moving forward, all these other projects are gonna come, because all the other projects didn't come forward either, and it was I calculated 9.5 miles of county expressway projects they were doing that never got a public review. And they've not committed that they're gonna bring these things before construction.
I have a quick question regarding this. Was this the same related to the public comment we had about Arboretum and some public works being done in the area?
I think somebody mentioned it,
Yeah.
but I also heard them mention, and I don't wanna talk about my own neighborhood too much, but St. Joseph, where.
Okay, gotcha.
Mhm, mhm. And that was the first thing that the county item did. The second thing that we covered on the county item was actually the Foothill Expressway Multimodal Feasibility Study. And I will give an update on it. This was a study session where no action was taken, and I was advised by the VTA board office that I could participate in the discussion at the VTA meeting.
You could not.
That I could.
Oh, you could, okay.
So I participated, given their direction, and I will give just a brief update. So the project's coming. The funding agreement between county staff and VTA staff, they have it all drafted, and it's going to the Board of Supervisors to get approved. Once that's approved, county staff plans to hire a consultant that's gonna help them do this just to let everyone know what this is. This is the Foothill Expressway Multimodal Study, so it's bikes and pedestrians largely along the expressway and across the expressway. And the next step is they're gonna then seek a consultant that's gonna help them do this study. They are going to pick a consultant from, they have a list of county approved consultants, so they're not gonna use unapproved, and they're not gonna do the big wide open call for projects, but there will be some selection and call. Then they're gonna create a proposal with that contract. I don't know if it'll be I don't know exactly how that's gonna be, but once they have that proposal in place with that consultant, they're gonna then take that to the Board of Supervisors to approve that contract with the consultant. And that's supposed to be done by, I think, June or July. And then the idea is at that point, this summer, the consultant starts what they're expecting to be a 2-year study of Foothill. And when I say Foothill, let me clarify, Foothill Expressway and Juniper Serra. So the entire thing. And I will also say that we have been successful at getting county, it was originally gonna start at right before 280, but we've been successful in getting the county to agree that it's going to cover the 280 underpass, where there's been cyclists, we've had complaints from cyclists, including when the Complete Streets Master Plan public feedback was taken, all the way up to Cristo Rey Drive and I think Starling Drive up there. So it'll connect to the Los Altos border up there, because Los Altos has off of Cristo Rey Drive, and then Cupertino jurisdiction. So I know Cupertino has just done a plans for a bike lane on Cristo Rey Drive, and I know Jaime had the Cristo Rey Drive. He was making some plans over on Cristo Rey Drive for that guardrail repair, that he was also planning some bike lane stuff. So I hope that gets aligned with what Cupertino has planned. And then as all these projects come, they'll start connecting the dots. But I think that's the update I have. I will say that there were a few public speakers at the meeting, and we did hear from one parent who wanted to make sure the crossings, and one person who was involved in the Safe Routes to Downtown, who was also like, it's not so long, it's a cross. And then we heard a couple other public comments about people who are going up and down. So, but it's supposed to go up to the Menlo Park, like the border up there. So, but I think, and these are my own words now, I think what you'll find is once the study's done, there's kind of an idea and a proposal, and it might be something like Homestead Road project. It's a study, and then it's got to move to design, then it's got to move to, it's going to cost a lot of money and get grants and things like that. But this is where it's at now. And that's not where it was at 2 years ago. So And this was a project that actually applied about a year ago for a Measure B study grant, which those grants happen every 2 years. And it applied 2 years before that. The first time it did not get it because there was a lot of the equity priority communities above it. And I'm hoping Stephen Fong hears this, is that it applied again for the very same grant. And it got struck lucky the second time because A, it learned from the scoring of the first time, and B, it's the odds of who else puts their name in the hat any given year on any given grant call. And having your things ready to go is a way to get the money, because if you don't have something ready that you want to study, or if you don't have something ready that you want to construct, like no point in applying for the grant. So we gotta put ourselves in a ready state for these kind of things. Okay, I think that's the update from the VTA. Oh, one more thing. So last time I said that we weren't getting the grant funding for the Central Bikeway. STIP grant, Central Bikeway. So that project is gonna get a big chunk of dollars and get advanced to its next stage as well too. Yeah, so that's really good.
Can I have a quick question? I think it was an email communication that went out. Did you send it out or somebody did about the Foothill Expressway study? Somebody sent it out.
I can't remember what I sent, but I know I sent something from VTA. Yeah,
But
I
when I
can't.
looked at the map and so on, that one showed only up to Alpine Road. Right? It went from.
Yeah, Juniper Serra ends at Alpine, so maybe it's not quite.
That's where it turns into Alameda de las Pulgas or whatever, yeah.
It might not quite be, you're right, it might not quite be the Menlo Park border,
Gotcha.
because that's the.
I think it is the Menlo Park.
That is.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, it becomes like West Menlo Park, Menlo Park.
Yeah, I don't, okay.
Right, it's a border area,
It's,
for sure.
it's that
Yeah.
freeway that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so there is kind of a, until you get on the other side of Santa Cruz Avenue, I don't, where Juniper Serra hits Alpine, until you get on the other side of Alameda de las Pulgas, on the other side of Santa Cruz, I think it remains a dicey area. I think that the county controls the jurisdiction of Foothill and Juniper Serra, because Juniper Serra is kind of unincorporated county there. So that's kind of where they put the study. I think somebody will have to find some multi-jurisdictional thing that's gonna take that little take it through.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an ambitious project.
Yeah.
I think it's an ambitious project and it's gonna take some.
Oh, really?
It's gonna take some work, and it's also gonna be curious to what the community meeting, what the study decides about what people want. There was a really interesting proposal on the VTA BPAC. One of the members said, like, why don't we just close Foothill Expressway for vehicles and create a giant park? So, somebody open the building with that, open the bidding with that. That's definitely not what the county was intending.
Train tracks back there, like it used to be.
Big bike lane.
Exactly.
Okay, any other reports?
I don't think so. I feel like there's something I forgot, but.
All right, so, and let's see. Well, I just wanted to, reiterate that thanks to staff, we sent out the opportunities for volunteering for for the bike month, so.
Cause we just did,
that would be great.
because we did just have a meeting, bike planning meeting,
Yeah.
so, and they're looking for volunteers, so those, I said specifically, they mentioned they specifically, I asked specifically, like, what do you need, so that they can give that list, so.
Okay, great. So that, I didn't have anything in addition to that, so, if that's all, yeah, go ahead.
So on today's PTA presentation, I wanted to thank you guys for putting that out ahead of time. Because a lot of times presentations get put up on the screen, but we don't get a chance to study them, look them over. And also a lot of times they're small up there and I can't expand them until, after the fact. So I thought it's great that that came out ahead of time. I know sometimes, a lot of times you can't do that because they're not complete, but even a partial one is better than nothing, in my opinion. So I want to thank you guys for putting that out ahead of time.
Good point.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, thanks. All right, so I'll take any future, we've discussed a lot about future agenda items and so on, but there's anything critical that we want to address? Okay, Stephen, go ahead.
Record tonight. For our next commission meeting, I would like to bring up the topic of placing no parking around Los Altos High School within a 1 block radius. We have had enough residents requesting this, so I'd like to bring this item.
You saying no parking signs? Is that what you're-
Basically, no parking, just like Almond, no parking.
Yeah, is that right?
That's one of the things that I would like to talk to the commission about. It's not going to be along Jordan. It'll be all the side streets that comes into Jordan. So this is to try to address some of the concerns that residents have in the area. They're saying that they would like to see no parking, but it has a ripple effect as well. So
So when you bring that forward, will you have a solution?
I'll have a suggestion.
Okay.
We also want to make it more consistent throughout the whole neighborhood of what kind of no parking is going to be placed out there.
And will you get buy-in from the police or whoever so that?
Well, that's what I wanted to bring up, is I want to bring up before the commission to get your input.
Just things to think about too.
Okay.
You know, if you have like maybe one of the officers here too, that would help too.
No, we will be having that full discussion, but I would like to bring the topic into the commission, so I could obtain some input from you guys prior to us proceeding with this. So, we're probably gonna put a notice out there to all the residents, saying that this is something that is going to be brought up at the commission's meeting, with the understanding that eventually, if enough residents would like to see this, we may be placing this item as a serious consideration for implementation.
So you're gonna bring this as an informational item first, next meeting?
Well, I'm gonna bring it in as both an informational and discussion and kind of act.
Yeah, that would be great. I think usually that list comes to us before it goes out to bid, but in all my years on the commission, I've never seen a commissioner say this street and not that street. But I think it just informs the community, then it's public and it informs the community as well. So even though you guys have it out to bid by that point, I think.
Yeah,
Let's
just to let you know, majority of that project is Jordan. That's pretty much the majority of it. And then the other locations are relatively small compared to Jordan.
Okay, all right, thank you. Anything else? Nope, okay, good, all right, we're done. Calling the meeting adjourned at 8:14 PM. Thank you.
Thank you, Shrek. Well, close one.